Addiction can happen to anyone. A colleague, a family member, a friend, or even you. But because addiction is often judged as a weakness or a choice, an addict is less likely to reach out for help. So the addiction becomes a secret, and the addict feels ashamed. We want to make it easier for addicts to come out of the shadows and get help before it's too late. The secret and seductive nature of alcohol and drug abuse can lead to hiding, lying, and denial for the addict, their family, friends, and loved ones. Denial only encourages a downward spiral until something terrible occurs, like an arrest, suspension or job loss, or worse, a trip to the emergency room. By this time, the addict is in crisis mode until they reach out for help. By removing the stigma from addiction, you can open the doors to candid conversations. We will help you identify and recognize the signs and stages of addiction and give you the tools to begin a dialogue with someone you believe to be an addict. Addiction is a disease. Just like emphysema is a disease of the lungs and heart disease is a disease of the heart, addiction is a disease of the brain, not a choice. Chronic, primary, progressive, relapsing, fatal. Addiction in all of its forms is an incurable disease, but it is manageable. However, the addict is prone to relapse and could die if the addiction is left untreated. Drug and alcohol users generally fall into 4 categories: experimental users, substance use disorder mild, substance use disorder moderate, substance use disorder severe. Most people remain in the experimental stage. Alcohol and some light drug use don't trigger an addictive response. So usage is controlled by the user, not the drug. For others, usage becomes necessary. So casual weekend drinking becomes a habit that must occur, or a seemingly innocuous drug like marijuana or pot becomes a gateway drug because the mind of the addict is triggered to want more alcohol and drug stimulation in increased amounts and/or higher doses. The mind is stimulated by natural rewards such as food, sex, or excitement. Drugs or alcohol, in the mind of the addict, create an artificial stimulation even more powerful than any natural reward. In mild substance abuse, you will notice increased substance use and obvious behavioral change.
My name is Sheila, and I'm a recovering addict. I always drank a little bit more probably than I should at social gatherings, sometimes the last to leave the party. But as far as with anything that was illegal, that started after I got my degree and out of sheer boredom. I was just very desperate and kind of hopeless because I didn't know how to stop it on my own at all. And I certainly didn't want to tell anybody because I was a pharmacist. I was doing it at work. You know, and everybody, you know, with half a brain knows that that's not legal. So I figure that if you're doing something like that risky behavior has to be a problem. And the fact that I couldn't stop. My last job, they knew something was wrong. They didn't know what. But my performance was terrible. You know, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I barely bathed. And, you know, I was getting up and going to work every day, but I had a lot of incentive to go to work. So, you know, I guess it just depends. So I quit, of course. I did what any good addict does. I ran. And then I knew, and of course I got what I could get to, you know, detox on my own, which didn't happen. And I wound up making a phone call to get help. And it was a place far away from my home because I still wanted to do it, you know, on the down low. I didn't want anybody to know. And that didn't work out. They would not treat me. They said I had to be inpatient with my history. So then everybody knew. I had to tell my husband, and he put me in the treatment facility, and I stayed there for 28 days. I don't believe that I could do it alone without some type of support, either through PEAC or it's a 12-step program that I go to. And if I didn't have them, I don't know what I would do, because you always feel different from the general population. But when you're with people that have gone through the same thing, there's a camaraderie there. You can't beat that. When you're a using addict, you have to lie a lot, even to people that you're very close to. Sometimes you lie to people and they know you're lying, and they know you're lying, but you do it anyway because the disease tells you to. They say it's kind of like a surrender, and you're powerless, and I agree with that. But also by following, a program of recovery, I am empowered. I can do anything I want now, and I couldn't do that when I was using. I couldn't do anything but use. But now, my relationship with my husband, of course, is better, and with my son. And now that he's a teenager, I can, he knows. I mean, we have a nice family life.
Moderate abuse is a more serious disease than mild addiction, but not as serious as severe. How do you recognize changes that have occurred since an addict started using? In moderate abuse, you will see signs of obvious drug abuse, like hangovers, mood swings, dilated pupils, and physical tics, and you will witness abhorrent behavior. The impact of moderate abuse could be a single DUI, a pattern of losses such as marital separation, divorce or job loss, damage to personal property like dents in a vehicle or regular fender-bender accidents, and inconsistent behavior like abruptly canceling or changing plans with family and friends to instead stay home or be alone. These can all be linked to moderate drug use. Helen was a successful financial advisor, wife, and mother of two in Midtown Manhattan. She kept a hectic schedule that also included evening networking events for current and prospective clients. Helen's evening routine was erratic. She would sometimes come home after 8 o'clock at night, just in time to help the kids with homework and have a quick bite to eat before checking messages and emails. Helen was constantly tired. When she lies down, sleep doesn't come easy. In the past, she took an occasional over-the-counter sleeping pill. When they were no longer effective, she got prescription meds from her doctor. After a few months and more demands at work, Helen increased her pill frequency and dosage and added a nightly cocktail to the routine. Within 6 months, Helen's mood and behavior had changed. She started missing business meetings. She was put on probation. She began skipping her kids' activities and regularly argued with her husband. The relationship was strained. In the span of 10 months, Helen is now abusing. The combination of alcohol and sleeping pills have increased because when she tried to stop, she became increasingly agitated and jittery. Her mind and body are now conditioned to the drug effects and demand more. Helen is a moderate addict.
My name is Gil, and I'm the father of a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. Early in high school, my son got involved with drugs and alcohol, and maybe even before that, as far as I know. His behavior was erratic at times, not being honest with the family, and a very likable young man. So we never addressed directly the elephant in the room until he was actually arrested. Alcohol was the prime and only drug that he was using, but he became a down and out drunk in the street, and was actually found living under the stands of a football stadium on the Eastern Shore. Got got into the hospital, but didn't stay, and actually called us one morning asking for us to call 911 because he had just moved to a place that he didn't even know the address. So that was the most terrifying last step, a call for help. He was as close to alcohol death as possible. And I think from that point on, after local hospitalization, we went to this 90-day program in Mississippi. I think that 12-step work has been a real building block for the family, for me especially, and now it is for my son. I don't think we knew the right tools or the right words to use at that time. He never went to college, but he went to culinary school and became a chef. And I think that was a good life for him, but there's a lot of drugs and alcohol in the kitchens. And at one point, he, after he had been married with a child, he decided that he was going back to change profession and be a firefighter. Today, he is a paramedic working for a private contractor. He's very happy with what he's doing. He's very involved with the family, his sisters, his nieces and nephews, and his daughter. So he's the son and the person that we always wish we had. I'm very proud of him now.
Severe is the level of addiction that precedes death. In severe abuse, you will see out-of-control behavior, and as the condition worsens, the behavior becomes more and more bizarre. Ultimately, the addict becomes more erratic and unstable. How do you recognize changes from moderate to severe? You notice a relapse to a prior deep level of drug abuse. There are arrests for criminal activity. Drug overdose, including a trip to a treatment facility or the emergency room. Emotional distance from parents and siblings. These can all be linked to severe drug use. When an addict loses control, they lose the ability to use drugs or alcohol in moderation consistently, and they have frequent episodes of excessive use. A severe addict continues to use despite their problems. For the addict, multiple crises are not seen as drug-related. They make and break sincere promises to themselves and others to quit, and they avoid seeking treatment. Dennis was born into a musical family in the 70s. His parents were classically trained and successful. He had a happy childhood and took to music by age 5. Not unusual for the son of 2 symphony orchestra performers. Dennis was an exceptional talent and thrived until his parents divorced when he was 10. His world was broken, and he was love-shattered. Dennis's parents remarried quickly, which only increased the level of pain he experienced. New families, new siblings, he became distant and ashamed, and at times suicidal. As a teen, he rebelled by doing occasional drugs. He often stayed with various friends because he became too difficult to handle. He joined a band before his 17th birthday. By the age of 18, his band was the hit of the town, and by 21, his band was an international success. But success doesn't heal, and Dennis lacked emotional coping skills. As a young adult, he often felt depressed and angry. His initial light drug use in high school led him to try harder drugs when he had money and access. Cocaine became his escape, his shame, and his ultimate downfall. He had been arrested twice while on tour for possession of narcotics and had once OD'd before a performance overseas. While in the ER, the doctor warned him if he continued using, he could die. Despite the advice, Dennis still abuses coke and narcotics, often together. Dennis is a severe addict. Signs to look for in identifying addiction. Is the person concerned about their drug supply? Are they stockpiling drugs? Are they carrying or holding drugs? Do they take risks in order to use drugs? Are they using drugs alone? Have they changed their friends? Are they finding excuses to use drugs? Are they becoming defensive?